Hey guys, it's your host Elex, and I just want to say thank you for tuning in to another episode of Mental Mixology. All right, everybody. So, June is Men's Health Awareness Month, and we cannot talk about men's health without talking about men's mental health. It is not talked about enough. And before I get into introducing our guest today, I wanted to go over some statistics that I think everybody should know about men's mental health. So, over 6 million men struggle with depression each year. Some of the warning signs of depression are fatigue, irritability, loss of interest, pleasure on work or hobbies, and changes in eating or sleeping, along with feeling numb or hopeless. Another statistic is men die by suicide more than 4 times the rate of women. Some warning signs and triggering life events are social isolation, substance misuse, trauma, unemployment, and financial struggles. And for the last one, alcohol dependency impacts 1 in 5 men. So, some warning signs of this is using drugs or alcohol to escape or cope, substance use interfering with relationships, work, or daily functioning. So, one of the biggest things you can do to raise awareness for men's mental health this month is by bringing up conversation, talking about it with the men in your life. If you're a man listening, encouraging conversation with people around you. And we are doing that here on Mental Mixology today with our guest co host, who is the best man in my life. We have Al Simon, the CEO of APS Solutions today, here to talk about his story and basically how he went from poverty to owning his own multi-million-dollar business. So, Al, thank you so much for coming on today. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you for the introduction.
We talked about this is Men's Health Awareness Month. What does men's health mean to you with your own journey?
Men's health, if I could just sum it up, is trying to be comfortable in your own skin.
100%. So you are genuinely the most mentally tough person I know, and we talk all the time because I work at APS Solutions, which is Al's business. But we talk about mental resilience a lot within our company. And today I want to dissect your brain for our listeners to look at the highs and the lows of what it actually takes to build a successful life. So, for those of you who didn't know, like I said, you are the CEO of APS Solutions. A lot of people probably are not familiar with what APS Solutions is. So, what is your elevator pitch on your business?
So we are a international project staffing company focused on the energy infrastructure and heavy industrial markets. So we help build, operate power plants, refineries, and heavy industrial type projects and operations. So everything we do is termed. Everything we do has a start and an end date, and so we always have to keep finding our next work. So we're a big hustle game is I guess what I'm getting at, big hustle game.
And how long have you been working within this industry?
I will say in this industry, 6 years. I spent about 19, 20 years specifically in the energy industry, helping doing what I'm doing now. So it wasn't quite the same industry. So now I'm technically in the staffing industry. I always felt like I was in the energy industry for a very long time. So if you put them both together, 26, 27 years.
Amazing. So, I want to start with a really big question, and it's really the basis of this episode. But what does the term mental toughness actually mean to you today compared to what you thought it meant when you were younger?
That's a good question. And so I think it means the same to me. Mental health is very important, but people sometimes confuse mental health with it's still a hard knocks life out there, right? And you still got to pick yourself up. And there's a lot of people that want to go, woe with me and say things are too hard. And, it's part of it, right? So I guess the fact that it is hard, you can have some moments of weakness where you can take a deep breath and say, man, that was tough. And you just got to pick yourself back up. Back in the day, I grew up as a kid, you just rub some dirt on it. Doesn't matter what it is. You just rub some dirt on it, get up and go forward, And so that's fine, right? But it's okay to be like, man, that hurt.
Yeah,
I think that's the
without
change
a
in my
doubt.
mind.
And I do think it is important what you said with being like, "Wow, that did hurt." It's good for emotional regulation, and as mental health studies have continued to evolve, being able to fully feel your emotions and not suppressing them, because honestly, if you suppress them, they're gonna come out at some point, whether you're erupting on
Sure.
someone you love, somebody at work, so it does serve you better to be mad when something doesn't go right,
Yeah,
when you fail at something. It's okay, it's normal, it's natural. Nobody goes through things like that and continues being happy, chipper, calm, cool, and collected. It's okay to feel those feelings.
correct.
So, you have not always been your own boss. And along with that, you didn't just wake up successful one day. You had to endure various work environments earlier in your career. So, how did those places impact your mental health at the time, especially at the beginning of your career?
My very first job was pretty tough for me to get in the beginning with just a resume where I just graduated college with an English degree and I was a cook and a guy who worked at the car wash, right? So it was very strenuous when I first came into the working world. I had recently had a daughter. I was 23, 24. Recently got married, and so it was scary. I think in the beginning of my career, I worked scared every day because if I lost my job, I didn't know what I would do. And I think the motivation of working scared, right? This is that mental health part where it's like you look back on it though, but you're like, man, I wouldn't have changed a thing because when I worked scared means it kicked in my hustle button and I just out hustled all my coworkers and I learned a skill. That's where I first learned the skill that I use today, right? I was recruiting for more of like a local engineering company, so it wasn't in power and energy, but the concept clicked for me there. And so, when you get this hustle game mentality and you're willing to do whatever it takes to be successful, I had a account manager, boss, whatever I was the guy I was feeding, and he had left. I'd been there about 8 months, and he was my dude, and he left, and
And
the branch
feeding him,
manager.
so to explain this to people with recruiting, there's normally someone who brings in the jobs, and the recruiter is
Yeah,
the one who finds the people for the job. So you and this guy basically worked in tandem, him finding jobs, you filling jobs for
and I
a
brought him
good
leads,
minute.
right? I kept feeding him leads, right? So I would feed him leads, he'd call, close them deals, and I'd fill them, just like you said, right? We had a good Batman and Robin going on back in the day, and back in the day, I started off as Robin, right? And that's what you do to learn the biz, and I was the best dang Robin you've ever seen, right? And so Tom loved me, and I loved Tom. He was my hometown hero. But our boss, his boss, did not like me very much. And when Tom left, I was like, oh, my whole world, I thought, flipped upside down. So what I wound up doing is, so then the branch manager came in when Tom left. I was like, so what are we going to do? He's like, well, you're going to do both. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah. I'm like, I'm going to sell. I'm like, all right. I was bringing the leads in. I was like, I could do this, right? I could do this. I said,
Uh-huh.
so I said, Tom got commission. I got commission, right? We split the commission. I said, so if I do both the work, can I get both the commissions? And he said, yes. I was like, done. So then I started feeding myself, finding my old people. So I started selling, recruiting, putting the whole package together right then and there. And
Nice.
so you show me a path, right? And I figure out the math. I go, I explode on it. And so I wound up within my first year. So I worked there a total of about 14 months, but I had sold and recruited so much that I was on pace to be the highest paid person in the branch, and that upset the branch manager. And so he came to me and told me that corporate said I couldn't get both sides of the commission anymore. And I said, well, who's going to do the other side of the work? He said, still you. I said, hell no. I was like, that's not fair. But I still only had about 12, 13, 14 months of experience, right? So it's not like I have this big proven track record to
Uh-huh.
take my skills to the street, right? And so I started calling around. I called my buddy Tom, who had left. I said, Tom, I said, Chuck's bringing the hammer down on me. I was like, I'm looking for a new job. You know anybody, please refer him to me. And that had gone on for about, I was throwing some lines out into the water. And about a week later, Tom called me up and said, meet me for dinner. I said, okay, I meet him for dinner, and he pitches me the idea of becoming a recruiter at a company no longer there called PIC, Power Industry Consultants, is basically the foundation of where I learned this. But to take that job, I was going to take a base salary with no commission that was going to net me about half of what I was on pace to earn. Even though they chunked my sales commission, I probably would still have outpaced, but I accepted the job because I thought the opportunity was better. So I actually took a step back in life, right? And I went on
So
to a new company.
I wanna focus on that because a lot of people can't see the big picture at the end, like the big picture, honestly, when something like this
Yeah.
happens. A person like me, I could personally have a hard time with taking a pay cut to do a job not knowing what it could turn into. So, what was the mindset? Like, when you accepted that job, did you see the big picture in that moment, or were you like, I'm just going to bet on myself and see where this goes?
I think it was so I was gonna bet on myself. I was intrigued with the energy industry, but really what it was is Tom wanted me. My boy wanted me back, right? I was like, okay, I'm going with my dude, and we were rolling. And so he started a recruiting group, and there was one, two, three, four. There was five of us, and I outproduced all four of those people put together because I'm still working scared. My boy Tom's got me over there, so I was like, I was his dog, and I was just putting more
Yeah.
people to work, and I was bringing in leads. They had a staffing group there. Not know what you know today, but it is like the baseline of where I figured this out. And
Uh,
so I was hustling so hard that the people would come to me and skip the staffing group because I was just the guy who produced boom, 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 boom.
yeah. So,
Eh,
question here too. How many hours were you putting in? Like, was there this good, like, "Oh, check out at 5 o'clock and only check in at 9 a.m., or were you working all around the clock to make this happen?
So I don't want to age myself, but this is before cell phones and laptops and right. This is really like you had a cell phone, but it wasn't quite what you
A
thought today,
pager?
right? And yeah, right. And so yeah, literally. And so I would always do whatever it took, but I had a challenging life because while I'm trying to build up my corporate career, I still had a wife who was working and a newborn, a young daughter. So I was always trying to get home, right? And so today's a little different because technology can take you everywhere, right? And I still had an
Yeah.
hour drive in Atlanta traffic, right? And so I wanted to be home with my family. And so what I decided to do, I decided there was no water cooler talk for me, right? It was eight to I get there at 8 and I leave at 6 and I maximized everything, right? That's what I did. I said there's no BS time, there's no downtime because I really want to get home and be with my family. I'll do whatever it takes, right? And sometimes I do, but when I at that time when I checked out, it was important to me to go home and be a dad, a husband. And so balancing that at 25, 26, 27, nobody had paved that road for me, right? And so I still outproduced everybody, outworked everybody, so much so that again, date myself, 9/11, right? 2001. That's when I started. I started in between jobs. That was my week off. 9/11 happened that Monday morning. I'll never forget it. And with my daughter laying in my arms, right? And anyway, started there, pick. And then about 3, 4, 5 months, 6 months into that, the big Enron fiasco happened. And anybody who knows power knows that just flipped the whole energy market upside down with the Enron
Mhm.
fiasco. We were a company of about 250 people, quickly shrunk to, I don't know, 50, 55, 60. And somehow the guy who had only been there for a year had made it through the cut, right? I made it through the cut. And when we started to come back, they had let go of what they called the craft staffing manager, and they had approached me about taking on that position. Now, at this time, I had never been a millwright or a weld electrician or any of these things, right? And I had no idea.
Yeah.
But it was an opportunity. The place shrunk and they said, "You wanna take on a new skill?" And I'm like, "I'll do whatever it takes," right? And I'll never forget Tom, my hometown hero, my dude. He came to me, he said, "What are you doing, Al?" I said, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Your phone will never stop ringing. This is crafts. This is like around the clock outages." He's like, "You don't know what you're getting yourself into." He's
Mhm.
like, "I wouldn't do that if I were you." And I was like, Rich came to me, said the same thing, and I'm like, "Boss, it's a new opportunity." I'm like, I'm like, "I'm in." And I go and I become the craft staffing manager, and I became the best craft staffing manager you've ever seen. Right now, it's where I really started to sharpen my pencil of what we know today. It is what it is, right? And so at that time, I was a single guy and I had about 450 craftsmen working for me, man. I was rocking and rolling.
Wow.
And yeah. And
Staying
so
busy too. I was gonna say,
staying
was
busy.
that the reality of, like, your phone never stopped
Yeah,
ringing
this
at
is
that time?
technology's catching up now, right? Now we have real cell
Yeah.
phones, right? So now I have a real cell phone, but no laptop, right? Still just a cell phone.
Yeah.
But yes, my cell phone never stopped ringing. And so mental, right? This is all about like mental mixology and men's health, right? And balancing a career and a family, right? So I'm taking on this job, never done before. Now I'm really working my butt off, right? Now the cell phone's there. I'm working Saturdays, Sundays, like, cause outages never stop. So I'm working around the clock. So much so that my wife mandated that we take a Sunday off after church, go to the zoo, and no work. I promised her I would, right? But so we go to the zoo. It's the day's kind of coming to an end, and I'm like, man, I got a lot of guys moving today, and they need to be there tomorrow, and they need to find out if they aren't. I know, and so I go to the bathroom. check my voicemails. As you would know it, one thing's just not going perfectly, and I call to make sure and figure it out, and I'm walking out of the bathroom, and she sees me, and I'll never forget from, like, across the zoo, her eyes pierced me, and she just pointed at me. She grabbed my daughter's hand, and she just marched straight to the exit. I was like, "Oh, man." Right? And so, that
No.
balance yeah, that balance, she wasn't too happy. Now she's my partner in our business, right? And so it takes this ebbs and flows of trying
Yeah.
to be mentally tough, both home, at work. You got obligations at work. You gotta finish off what you started, and you're trying to be a good dad and a good husband and all these things at the same time, and it's not easy, right? It's not easy, and so, I've made a lot of mistakes, and I've done a lot of good, and so in this craft staffing job, I started to really kick butt so much, but I was bringing in more of my own leads, and they had, for some reason, management, they thought somebody could do it better, and so they asked me to go into sales. Okay, I can sell. I've been selling. I know how to staff. I can do. I'm like, okay, I'll go sell. So they moved me into sales. They replaced me with this lady named Robin. They hire Jim Flandro. May he rest in peace. He hires this snake oil salesman who will remain nameless, and he kind of slides in above me, right? So I get pushed to the bottom of the totem pole. And so every sales guy goes to Power Gym, but this guy. And I'm like, oh man, I think they're trying to push me out.
And
Right? This is
Peregrina's a
tough,
big
right?
conference, by the way, if you don't
Yeah, it's like
know.
our conference of
Uh,
conference. So if you're gonna sell, that's where you
yeah,
wanna go, right? And you just made me a sales guy and you left me off of that, and I've been working my tail off. You know who I am. So they put me into sales. They put me on the bottom of the rung. So I still get my recruiter commission, but I also try to get some sales commission. Don't send me to Power Gen. And I was so butthurt. I'll never forget being so butthurt. I was so butthurt. I was ready to quit. I acted like a crybaby. I've only done this once and I'll never do it again. But for like 5 days, I didn't do anything but close my door and sit at my desk. I was so butthurt. And I'll tell you what, you will never see time crawl slower than doing nothing for 8 hours. It was miserable for that fact. I was like, this is miserable. And so I finally picked myself up and I said, you know what? Nobody's can control my fate, right? Nobody's gonna control my fate. I always believe that. Nobody's gonna control my fate. And I said, I'm gonna show these sons of bitches that I don't need to go to Power Gen to be the best sales guy, right? And so I concocted this plan, right? So back then, again, it's still paper and pen, and they give you this register of everybody who showed up at Power Gen, their name, their company, the company phone number, and maybe their phone number. And I got this thing from marketing, and I just started dialing through it, pretending I went to Power Gen, like, hey, Greg, hey, they do, right? There's so many people they don't even remember, right? So I got to do my whole
yeah.
pitch. Next thing you know, I'm just picking them off. They're calling me back. I'm like, bada bing, bada boom. Now I'm rocking and rolling, right? Now I'm rocking and rolling, and I move from bottom to top, right? And now they're coming in, they're loving me, right? So much
Mhm.
so, they do this fatal flaw again. They come in and tell me I can't keep both sides of the commission twice in my life. I'm like, you got to be shitting me. And
Wow.
so that set me on the trail, right? That set me on
Mm.
the trail. So then I went to work for guys who had worked at this company before. So remember, I went to work for Tom. So one of my stories is I've never interviewed for a job ever again since I started working for Tom. People have always asked me to come. And so these guys who are starting up, the company's still there. So it's my first startup. I've started up this company, and they asked me to come help start up their company. And so I did. I left PIC and I went and started up these guys' company. And I spent about just shy of 2 years there starting up that company. And then I got recruited by my man Jeff to start up the company that I bought my company from. And so he recruited me to come over and help him with that. And that was the best decision I ever made, was to come over. And I was 31, and I was 30 going on 31, and he had offered me my first director's position. Sounds great, right? Director at
Mhm.
31, and
Yeah.
he asked me to take over a division they called professional services, and they had been in business just shy of about 3 years when they hired me, and the division that he had handed me had did $100,000 a year before I took it over, right? And so I come on board, director of professional services, office of one, me. I was the director of just me, right?
Uh-huh.
And that's how I started it, right? And from there, I hired and I built my first year, I did 10 million, and I built it all the way up to about $65 million in my span there. And I did so well that he promoted me to come to Sedalia, and then I started taking on more responsibility.
So he
And
moved
so
you,
he moved
basically.
me. Yep. Yeah,
Okay,
me and my
so
family
was that
relocate
like
me from
an
Atlanta to
was
Missouri.
that an easy transition for you? Because, like, were you around family? Was it like
No, I moved away from family, right? So my in Atlanta, my mom and dad lived literally down the road from me, right? The grandparents to my kids. Moving from them was tough. We had finally saved up enough cash. I'm far from what I am today, right? And we had saved up enough cash, and I had we just put a pool in our backyard, and it had been open for like 4 weeks. And I come down there and I tell my wife we're moving to. You want to move to Missouri? I didn't tell her, but I was like, we got to move to Missouri. And she cried. Cried. I hated it. But now I couldn't pull her away from here at Wild Horses, right? But she cried, and I'm like, babe, this is the best opportunity. I can do this. I know I got this. And she's the greatest. She's the greatest. Look, a life partner is very important for everybody to have to be successful for your own mental health. And she always bought into me. She's always bought into me, right? And so she agreed, and so we did it. And it's always we maximized our plan, right? But it was tough, right? It's tough to be like, bye, mom and dad. I mean, I love my
yeah.
parents, but I've always been on my own since I was 17. Anyway, that's why I move up here, and then I'm fortunate enough, like I just always do, like random situations where the Lord gives you an opportunity, and you just got to be ready for it, right? And so, unfortunately, my good friend Mike quit in the cover of darkness one night, and I get a call from the boss man, and basically, in so many words, he's like, "You're running field services now." Okay, so just like I never did craft staffing before, I never ran field services before, right? Okay, I can figure this out. Now I'm really working 16-hour days. Now my days are getting longer. I'm doing things I've
Uh-huh.
never done. I'm traveling. I mean, then I wound up taking O&M and tech services. Then I become the senior vice president of sales and services. Now I'm running the sales department and all the way we go about executing our work. So I'm bidding jobs, turnkey jobs, and my career is just exploding now. My mind's just, my intel, but I'm putting in mega hours. I'm traveling all over the world. It's a lot, right? And for about 10 years, the mental health part of this, I guess, is the hard part. For 10 years, I always put my family first, but sometimes it seems like I put them second, but I really put them first. And for 10 years, I have this gap trying to be the best dad. On weekends, I'm here, and but that was the hardest part. So what I used to do to get home earlier, I don't have that ability anymore to keep building my career, right? I have to find nuggets here and there to be the dad I need to be, right? And not, and so it just, that balance, that shift, you just got to keep ebbing and flowing with what the world gives you, right? And you got to be tough through it because it's not easy, right? Even on yourself. Like, I'll never forget my wife's younger brother, Charlie, was getting married. I had both my daughters by then, and I'll never forget sitting on the back deck with her brother, Brian, or her older brother. And he was kind of giving me the business about traveling so much and not being a father to my kids. And I was like, and he was a teacher, right? So he always spent the summers, right? And it was just two different ways. And I'm not comparing us. I've just never forgotten this conversation. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then I look at what we're doing now, and I work with my kids, I work with my wife, I get to live this fabulous life that he doesn't, right? And so, would I give those 10 years back? No, I probably keep, because now I get the rest of my life, right? And so this was always my plan of to do this and build this business and bring my family, and I've always had this dream. And it was
Yeah.
at Pro where it all came together for me, and I did so well. We did so well together over 15 years. I was fortunate enough to have a great working relationship with my boss, that when they didn't want to do the staffing anymore, we worked out a deal where I could buy it from him. And that's what I do now, right? And it's all through hard work, being honest, forthright, and just doing the right thing. And it's not easy. The boss I had was the most challenging person I've ever worked for in my life. And keep in mind, this guy's starting up a business and he just likes to grow the business. And so it was a challenge working for Jeff, because he is one of the smartest people I've ever met in my life. Like, he has a memory like I've never seen in I don't know. He's amazing.
Yeah.
And so he's ruthless, though, too. Back in the day, too, I could get it because he was scared. All the chips in on the table. Right now that I own my own thing,
Mhm.
I could go back in time and think about, okay, now I get why he said some of these things and did some of these things and acted that way, because
Mhm.
it's hard. And he was
Yeah.
ruthless because it's his money that we're all playing with. And so I have much more respect for it now. And I could go back in my mind and rewind those conversations and just understand him a little bit better. And now he's my mentor, my buddy, right? And so all these things happen for a reason, right? If you walk with the Lord, he'll give you the guidance if you just can open your eyes and see it, right? And so inside of him being the toughest boss I ever had, the other side of that, I became a fruit ninja. You ever play that old game where you're slicing the fruit, it drops
Uh-huh.
down? And so nobody could come at me now because he's made me mentally resilient, even though I thought it was hard. And I had all this strife back then. But now I look through it, it was like, man, what a schooling, right? I teach people this. I took a pay cut back. I've taken every time that when I took over field services, there was no paycheck increase. It was just you took it over because I'd never done that job before, and I knew that. But once I proved myself worthy, now I have two divisions I can run. My value will come with that, right? And it always has. My value will come with that. Like people are like, pay me before I do it. Like, no, what if you can't do it?
Yep.
Now I got to take no. So like,
Mhm.
but people just see it backwards, right? And so that's how I've always built my career. Is like, I'll do that, boss. Like, oh, you need somebody to do that? I'll do that. I got that. I'll take that over. I got that, right?
Mhm. It's important that you say that though, because in this day and age, I hear people all the time saying, when someone at work wants them to take more on, are you going to pay me for it? And it is so important to highlight that you are gaining assets within yourself by taking these challenges on, by learning these new things. I mean, because like you said, you have gained knowledge that you are using in your business today by doing every little thing you said yes to.
People have it backwards in their mind, right? Think of it this way. Most people, I don't say most people, let's just say you either go to a 4-year school, 2-year school, some type of trade school, you pick it, right? But for my example here, we're just going to say you went to a traditional 4-year school. And for my basic math here, we're going to say your tuition all in was 20 grand, right? 20, 40, 60, 80. So you spent $80,000 for somebody to educate you on something, whatever you're, right? And let's just say you get lucky enough to get into that field. Now they are paying you to apply whatever you just paid $80,000 to go do. Now you're in there and they say, hey, you want to go do that? Okay, how much are you going to pay me? What? No, I'm going to give you the opportunity. You just spent $80,000 to get an education. I'm still paying you today, and now you're going to go learn something new. Why would you not take advantage of that opportunity? It's dumbfounding to me. And so when people in my organization look at it that way, I really realize that this is not the place for them, right? Because opportunity is bountiful at our place. I mean, whatever you want to be, you could be. But if you look at it that way, it's short-sightedness.
Because, like you said, especially at APS, it's the type of organization where you go take that on without the pay increase, sometimes it's even better when people don't really even have to say anything and you just take it on for yourself. But
People see.
that's what I'm saying. People always see, like, it never goes unnoticed. And I
That's
will
right.
say that's not in every workplace, but I think it's very cool that you have transcended that into the business you own, with that being at least kind of how you left off things with your last career.
Yeah, I'm fortunate enough that I've had enough experiences and I could look back and I could cherry pick the positivity, the positive things, the things that went well, you know. I mean, don't kid yourself. Everything I tried at APS hasn't been a resounding success the first time I tried it. I mean, I've had alter and move and stuff like that. So anyway.
So, question before we kind of move on from talking about your evolution to this point, but was there a moment that the idea for APS or I want to have my own business, I want to bet on myself, when did that hit you? And how many years before you actually bought APS?
So I've always, since I was a kid, I always wanted to do my own thing, right? But what it was, I don't know. I was confused and dazed and confused like everybody at 17 from New York City, right? In my whole neighborhood. But where I had worked at Pick, I started up a very similar company, and then I had come to pro, and I knew I could do it. And that's real. I told there's a guy Gary Leith who works with us now. I told him, I said, I have a master plan, and this is probably 2006, and this is I'm living the master plan.
That's
If you
awesome.
ask Gary, he is my witness. That's why I can say it
Mhm.
out loud. And that's
Uh-huh.
when I said I knew I could do this, and I started to work for Jeff. And I knew it was his company, right? And I was like, okay, I'm gonna go help him start this up and figure out all these things. And Jeff was never gonna sell it. That was our deal in the beginning. No, I'm doing it. Okay, well, I put my head down and just kept working, right? And
Mhm.
eventually, I thought he would, or I'd break off and go do it myself once I figured I had enough. But he treated me well. He compensated me very fairly, and I was getting exposed to all these different things that I had never done before, right? So I was like, man, what? I mean, it made me so much smarter, Elex, that I am very grateful for the 15 years that I spent there.
Well, in the world of social media, I think a lot of people see these overnight sensations, this instant gratification. Let the record be that Al worked there for 15 years until he got to buy it. And now we're 20 years later. And I was going to say, how is APS Solutions doing as a business?
Today The good Lord has blessed us, and we're having our best year to date. We're lucky we have great employees and great people that we all work with each other and try to march to the same sheet of music, and so we just try to fine tune every day. But overall, we're doing great.
So, as a CEO now at this point, because I think a lot of people
Shameless plug
believe
to
that
Bucky's.
the Bucky's Cup, I love it. A lot of people think
Sorry.
when you're okay, when you're a CEO, problems magically disappear. A lot of people have a hard time with anxiety, their mind constantly running. And do those anxieties shut off? Give us a look into the CEO mind.
No, the answer is no. It never does. Right. I
Yeah.
think the problems, the concerns, the ideas, they just get bigger. So when you become the CEO, the problems you mostly face are the problems that people couldn't fix. So they're only big problems, right? It's like, dang it, not all problems, but ideas like concepts like, how am I going to drive the business forward next week, next month, next year? Like, where's the market going? How do we stay ahead of the curve? How do we zig when everybody else is zagging? That never
Mhm.
stops, right? And then
Yeah,
being emotionally intelligent and empathetic to your people, the people I count on the most. So I think about them and the message that I'm trying to drive to them and how they're receiving it and what makes them happy and what gives them energy, right? And so I'm always constantly thinking about someone or something, right? Of like, how am I going to promote this person or this concept, or what do they want to, you know, get out of this, and what do they need, and because they're trying to feed me energy too, my core people, right? And so it's just constant and it never stops, and look, the minute you stop moving forward, you're dying.
I like it. I like it. What about failures? Just because those are inevitable, things not going right, how do you mentally, I don't want to, overcome is the right word, but just kind of adapt, learn, and overcome from the failures that you endure or your business endures?
So first of all, I fail a lot, right? I fail a lot. I don't want to kid. My first thing, but how I've gotten through it now is I accept the fact that I know that I'm not perfect. And like one of the things that makes me successful is I'll come at something with an idea and I'll go at it 100%, right? Just say I'm 100% right when I start this concept. You pick whatever it is. Inevitably, I'm somewhere between 70 and 95% right. Right? I'm never really 100%. Even when I'm really good, I'm still a little tweaking at the end. But I was saying the law of averages, I'm usually 80% right. So let's just say I'm selling a deal, right? Trying to get something done, deal pick it, and I'm 80% right and I go at it. Boom. And the customer's like, man, 8 out of 10 guys showed up. I'm like, sorry, Mr. Customer, my bad. I'm on it, working on it, hustling, building this relationship, get the guy, fix it. He's like, great job. Thanks for fixing it. The guy who's still trying to get to 100%, still thinking about how to get to 100%. Then he finally gets there, but I've already won the job, got the customer, moved on, and you're still thinking about it. So I accept that this one was 80% because I'm always not going to be perfect, right? So I just move through that. Just be like, okay, here's my best try. I'm going to move forward. Anybody got suggestions? When it doesn't all work, put your hand up, say, we need to fix this. Done. Let's go.
I love that because a lot of people, the reason why they don't chase after things is because of fear of failure. And you have to know that it's inevitable. It's going to teach you something and run straight forward. So I think that's a great message because it really
It's
can
like,
paralyze people.
yeah, I mean, look, it's. I think you can evolve it into everything and anything you want. But I think today one of the reasons why people have a hard time, young people have a hard time dating, is they're scared to get rejected, which is failure, right? Like, look, I didn't pick up every girl I ever tried to go pick up. No guy has, right? I mean, but that's part of being a dude. At least the dudes we grew up with, right? You just try, right? Part of the rejection is coming back with your tail between your legs. You'd be like, buddy, I told you, out of your league, and you're like, worth a shot, right?
I love it. Oh, 100%. So we are going to kind of shift into a little bit of a different topic just because you are such a genuine person. You come off, I don't know, when you see Al, it's a very tough exterior, but you have a very big heart. And something I deeply admire about you is you're a natural lifter. You try to elevate everyone around you. But for you, family dynamics can be incredibly complicated at times. You've faced a far amount of animosity and defensiveness from your friends and even family, even when you're just trying to help. So, how do you protect your own peace of mind when the people you love refuse your support and
Hmm.
guidance?
You could put my kids in there, right? You could put my wife in there. You could put. It's tough. That's the toughest thing, right? Because with success comes wisdom, or wisdom comes success. You can put it either way you want. And so you get to. I've experienced certain things that most people haven't because I'm fortunate, right? And so when I see them walking into the bear trap, I'm like, This is a bear trap. And they're like, how do you know? And it's like, because I've been there. Look, see, I'm missing my finger. I mean, and it's hard because they know me as Al. I'm just Al. You know what I mean? And when I'm home and I'm joking around, I'm a jerk leg. And so it's hard for them to realize the person I've become because I'm always still Al. And I could see that now. My mom and my dad are very proud of me, and my mom, I love her. She is the bedrock of my fortitude, of strength to move forward. I mean, she really she gives me this conviction that is unparalleled. I mean, my wife and my kids motivate me too, but they didn't raise me. My mom raised me, right? That's why it's the bedrock. And I have a very tough relationship with my brother, which is really hard for me. You know, the uplifter of people, and me and my brother don't quite see eye to eye in this world, and that breaks my heart. And so how do I get through that? I don't know. I get through it like each and every day in some weird way, but I don't know.
And I appreciate you being open and vulnerable about that because it's really hard. And we think, especially with family, that just because that's blood, that's family, that it's always easy, and it's not. It's especially when you get older. So
And the
I
younger
appreciate.
one,
Okay, and what's the age difference?
13 months.
Okay, and
So we're
has it
really close. We grew up together. Like we're
out of
same. Yeah, anyway.
I was gonna say, out of curiosity, I mean, has it always have you guys always have, like, a challenging relationship your whole life, or was it really when you guys kind of got into adulthood?
No, we've had a challenging relationship our whole life. I think, my parents are full of love, but my brother, we're 13 months apart and we're complete opposites, right? I'm
Yeah.
6 foot, 170 pounds. My
Mhm.
brother's like 6'5" and 330.
Yeah.
Right? My
Mhm.
brother can't grow facial hair. I mean, he has one now, but it's the first beard he started. He hasn't shaved since he was 14 and he finally got a
Yeah.
beard, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I can't like by dinner I'm shaving again, right? I'm a
Uh-huh.
driver, he's more laid back. I'm at you, he's a pussycat. It's just and so I think what made it hard for him growing up is I was and I was very athletic, right? I was the hometown hero when it came to football and baseball. My brother being so much bigger in stature, physical stature than me, my dad had these high hopes for him, and my brother wasn't that. And I
Yeah.
think that probably sent my brother down a path of his mental, I think he
Yeah.
probably holds a lot of demons. And inside of that, I think my success, I don't know if it makes that better or worse. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? And I think
Yeah.
he's gotten a hard time to deal with that himself. And I can't fix that for him.
My next question is, you also work with your family, you work with your kids, you work with your
Yeah.
wife. Was that something that I don't know, I mean, your whole family bought into right away? Did it take some time to have them see your vision? Because I think it's really cool that it is a family business.
Yeah. The only one that wanted in from the beginning was my youngest daughter. She wanted to drop out of high school and join the company, right? Yeah, I love her. She always wanted in.
That's awesome.
She's my little Goomba, right? I mean, her, like, I love. So, but my oldest, a little bit more challenging, wanted to run away from the world, but for me, it was always my dream, right? And so my wife always in my dream. She was challenging too because she was very scared that she thought she would let me down in the beginning because she didn't think there was a place for her because she was a teacher, that she was a stay-home mom, and that's like, what do I know about staffing and recruiting and power and energy? And I said, we'll put you in finance. She's like, what do I know about finance? I'm like, babe, relax. Look, so my wife is, I know people. I'm a people person, right? And I do people for a living, and that's my job. And so my wife is a very regimented person: A to B, B to C, C to D, D to E. You know how many things we do in our company in the back office that need to be A to B, B to C? Thousands.
Yeah.
Right. So she got in, she got payroll, and she started to figure out there's a big world that we needed her to fill in. And then she got very comfortable. My oldest daughter came in, and she wanted to be an attorney. And then she goes, Dad, do recruiters make commission? I said, yeah. She goes, I want to be a recruiter. I said, done. And then she became the best recruiter we have. Apple and far from the tree. But no, to go back, it's a dream come true. Working with my family is part of my master plan. I've always wanted this. This makes those 10 years that I had left to go build me and us well worth it because now I get to see him every day, work with him every day, right? It's just it's God's greatest gift to me.
I love that. So, as we wrap up, how do you keep your heart open even when the past allows you to be pretty resentful or even turn cynical because of things that have happened?
I think, it's easy to move forward when morality is a big cornerstone of your life, right? And so I forgive, but I don't forget, right? And I say this a lot to people that in life there are no takebacks. You could apologize, but that action is still done. What you said is still done. Whatever was done is done, and you could be sorry for it, right? And so once you understand that you're not a perfect person too, and I've had those moments where I had to go back because my morality kind of tells me. And so how do I move forward? I try to keep, I'm an accountable person. Accountability and morality allow me to always move forward. And so I have also gotten wiser about keeping my circle smaller to the people who share my core values. I mean, I don't, this sounds a little bit egotistical, but I don't really need many more people in my circle. Sometimes I'll see like an employee that needs. I love that part and uplift them and whatnot.
Yeah.
In my personal life, sounds so catty when I say this, but I'm so blessed that I have a core group of friends and family in my circle that occupy an immense amount of my time, and I love them immensely, and I don't have enough time to even spend with them, right? So moving forward is just really spending quality time with the people I love in my bubble. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. That's awesome.
Okay.
I like that. Now, I want to talk about health just because throughout your career, too, I mean, you are currently in the best shape of your life, and there's a lot that goes into that between physical, mental, the environment you're in. So, as we dive into that, I want to note that you are a very straight shooter and you hold yourself to a high standard of accountability, as you've mentioned. But you've also been open about the fact that you aren't perfect and you have your own struggles and demons. What is your internal self talk like when you realize that you might be slipping in life? You might not be performing at your highest caliber for your family or your coworkers. And when that happens, how do you pull yourself back up? Because life can get hard when you have things going wrong, when you're not feeling up to it. How do you go back to
You know,
100% when you slip?
that's a good question, kind of loaded question. I could take it into three different directions. So personal accountability is like this, right? So you talked about health and physical health, and I liken that to like working out. And so I like to work out. I do a special routine every morning, and then 5 days a week I typically work out on top of that. But I'm also not a perfect person, and I do enjoy my adult beverages sometimes, or sometimes I enjoy a little too much of them. And that makes the next morning a little bit rough. But the accountability is you got to get up, you sorry slug, because you did this to yourself. And so I drag my sorry ass out of bed and I go work out in the because I don't want to, right? And that's where I think that's the first part of accountability is like you did it to yourself. Get your ass up and get into the gym. And
Mhm.
that's the other side of that though is like accountability with other people. I think it's important to say it this way. I think like it's hard for people to realize they are slipping without great people around them to tap them on the shoulder and say, "Hey, I don't think you meant that. I don't think you whatever it is," right? Because I I I think most people, well, me personally, I don't go into most anything with bad intentions, right? And so passionate, right? Direct, but
Yes.
not with ill intentions. And so sometimes when I'm passionate and direct and just, I'm tweaking out because I got this idea, I could sometimes deliver a message, maybe not the exact way that everybody wants to hear it, right? And
Yeah.
so I need my people to tap me on the shoulder and be like, I don't think that message was delivered the way you wanted to that person over there. You're like, really? Like, oh man, I forgot about that with them. Okay.
Mhm.
That's where my morality comes in. I feel horrible, right? And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, got it. But that's where your slip is like, okay, I got to clean up my message sometimes. And so I need my key people to kind of let me know that, right? It's like, what do
Yeah.
you do with that now, right? Because it's hard to self-regulate on everything. You got to be honest, right? It's very hard to
Yeah.
self-regulate. Think of it this way. When you lose weight, anybody who loses weight, you look in the mirror every day and you're like, did I lose weight? Did I not lose weight? Did I lose weight? You haven't seen somebody in 5 weeks and you show up and they're like, wow, look at you. You look great.
Mhm.
It's like you can't tell these things are happening to you because they're just, you know what I mean? And
Without a
I think it's
shadow
the
of a
same
doubt.
thing with accountability sometimes, right? Or lack of accountability, right? You're looking in the mirror, you look the same, but you didn't realize that, right? Because it seems minute. I don't know. It's hard to recognize, I guess is where I'm going with that.
That's a great analogy for it, because I agree with you. And like you said, and I think that's how you just level up as a person, and you do have to be open to that feedback too, because even Al, as a successful man he is open to the feedback of like, "Hey, you might be slipping." He's not too good to have that conversation or to have someone tell him that. So it is really important that you realize you're not perfect and you realize that the people
Remember
that
this,
love you and care for you.
there's only one person too good and we can never get to him, right? That's it. So
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. So now on the physical health side, you take your physical health incredibly serious now, but that wasn't always the case. Talk about the transition. And I mean, this is like diet, mindset, working out, whole shebang, because you have lost a significant amount of weight in the past
Yeah.
few years.
Yeah, so that's it. So when you're building this career that I told you over those 10 years where I was traveling away, you're eating a lot of late night dinners, you're eating some fast food, you're catching food here or there. It's hard to get into a workout routine. It's hard to really get that time. I didn't really have a role model to show me how to kind of set that up in my life. I knew I wanted to get there. Our company had a health fair like good companies do. We go do the health fair things, and I did my blood pressure and I was off the charts and they wanted to call an ambulance for me. I'm like, relax. I'm like, I'm fine. They're like, no, you're not. I'm like, no, yes, I am. But that was really when that was kind of that light bulb moment. Like, you can't go down this path, have this stressful of a job, work these kind of hours, eat this kind of food, and think your body's not going to shut down on you, right? And
Yeah.
so then I went, finally got to the doctor, and so I started getting it checked out. And crazy enough, God give you all you could handle. So remember, I told you my best buddy Mike Horn left in the middle of the night. I took over field services.
Yes.
Well, he was also, when we were here in the corporate office, he was also my lunch buddy, right? So we would meet up for lunch because we worked in different building, right? Whatever, right? So
Yeah.
we'd meet for lunch and he was my lunch buddy. And when he left, that became the window for me to open up to start having an hour to work out. Plus, it gave me time back home with my wife, and because we live in a small town now. So I'd drive home, I'd work out, shower, eat lunch, go back to work. And that was really the first step. I bought that hour back in my life. And then I tried to figure out how to take that little bit, get it on the road and start working out. And I hadn't really changed my dietary habits, but at least I had entered that into my life, right? And then over the course of, I guess this has been about 10 years, I would say. Yeah, when Michael, yeah, about that 10 years. I would say 10 years ago, I weighed most I ever weighed was 238 pounds. And over the course of 10 years, I weigh 170 pounds now.
It's
So it
amazing.
wasn't instantaneous.
Yeah.
It was a gradual, and I can hold the lifestyle I have now, right? Because it wasn't like a get quick rich scheme, right? To
Yeah.
get healthy, right? It was a mental determination, right? Because I feel great now, right? There was once upon a time in my life where I didn't think I would make it over, like, I don't know, 52 or 53 years old. I don't know why, but because I was just that's what my thought, right? I was just like, and
Yeah.
and then getting married and having daughters, it just seemed so much more to live for. And that's when I was like, okay, I got to do it for more than just me. And I think that's really my whole thing is that everything I do that makes me successful, I have to have a reason why, and it has to be bigger than just me. So, I decided to get or I was gonna say this because my wife's hot, right? But keeping up with my wife's hard too. That was a motivator for me too, right? But
Mhm.
also, yeah, she's beautiful. But also trying to be around and live for my kids and hopefully my grandkids and everybody that's important to me. They keep telling me they want me to stick around, so that's why.
I could see why. And so do you think that having your health in a really good spot has allowed you at a work perspective be able to perform at a higher level because you have that in tune?
Yeah, you look good, you feel good, you perform good. I mean, I think it's all like mentally connected. Not one leads into the other, but I think when you're running them in parallel, they just all kind of combine to give you this confidence, this bravado, this like, I could do anything I want. Like that's how I feel. Like, and so when you combine you get to this positive mindset. Through all this career, that's what I finally got to. I'm a positive mindset guy. And so I feel like nothing can stop me. Anything I put my mind to, I'm gonna go do. And what I really like is, I have with that positive mindset, I see somebody else who wants to try to accomplish a goal. They're not quite sure how to get there. And I love to uplift those people and get them on board. I was like, hey, what are you trying to figure out? Let's go do it.
You really are good at that. He has great ideas too. Even if he just walks by you, he's like, "Oh, hey, I thought of this." Yeah, Al is really awesome about that. Now, as we are starting to wrap up, I want to really hit on the mental health side of things because, I mean, you've accomplished so much, you juggle a lot, and we've talked about, the mind never shutting off. So, for are men and honestly anybody listening who also have a brain that stays awake at 5 a.m. planning the next thing. How do you find moments of quiet or do you learn to just kind of ride the wave of your brain never shutting off? Like, what do you do to combat that?
Yeah, what a loaded question, right? So I'm gonna answer that question with taking back a comment I said where I said I could do anything. So I take this back only in this one comment here because one of the craziest things that helps me slow down my mind is playing the game of golf. And the one thing I can't do is get very good at it though. So it's yeah, I'm average. I'm like a 15, 16, but so I don't think about work. I love it because it's very humbling game for a guy like me because I'm not very good at it. And I'm very good at most things that I try to do now. And I've been playing for enough years where I should be better than I am. And so that helps silence the noise for me a little bit. You know, every once in a while, even when I go out with people from work, we don't even talk about work, right? It's for us, it's just for me, it's like a sanctuary of humbleness of being like the ball's not moving and you still can't put it in that hole in the strokes they tell you. So it's very humbling. What else turns off the noise? I mean, I love the Yankees. When I watch the Yankees, that really helps me quiet the noise, especially in playoffs. Family time, actually, I should have started with this one every morning. Bible study always helps you turn off the noise and gives you clarity to what you're trying to focus on. That really does help me, and I've been doing that for quite some time. That's part of my mental health is if you read the scriptures, I believe there's so many messages in it to apply to what's going on in each and every day. It's just whether you're willing to listen and hear it and see it and apply it into your life, right? Because if you start to lead the life of piety, blessings come to you, and so that's how I quiet my brain as I try to help uplift other people, right? It's just easier to focus on other people a lot of the time, right? Because it's not about you, or it's not about me, it's about you, right? And so I don't know if this is quieting the brain, but I guess sometimes focusing on other people's issues to uplift them, it just never turns off. But I don't know if it's not worrisome, right? I love it, right? I'm very happy doing it, right? It's not like it bothers me, you know? I don't know.
100%. So, I'm gonna finally talk about this because I wanted to truly interview our guest today because I think making it like a interview just like every other guest I have on here would truly allow you guys to see Al and his journey. But Al is actually my dad, and I think it was awesome he came on here to support my podcast and talk about his story because, like I said, he has the best resilient story I have ever heard personally. But I also have the unique privilege of working alongside Al at APS. So, what is the biggest piece of mental health or life advice that you hope I or any younger generation of men who are listening take away from this episode today?
I could talk 2 hours on that, right? So let's see if I could sum it up, but I think people need to understand this in life, I think is the best thing. Life is a two-way street, and it's not always about you. And if you can focus on the other person and you align yourself with like-minded people who are thinking it's a two-way street and it's not always about me, and I surround myself with all those types of people, wow, what a life. And that's what I've done. And that's my advice is to get yourself surrounded with those people and away from toxic people because I have limited time for toxic people these days. And so it's hard. It's hard. The other thing, I mean, I could go find a life partner. I really tell young people this or anybody this, like, without your mom, I would be less half the man that I am now. She is the best support system. She helps me with my mental clarity and my mental conviction. She said this to me more than once, but I always think about the one time, and I was trying to get this deal together, get APS going, and I was freaking out, and I couldn't. I was like, man, I don't know, and I need to figure this out. I said, I'm trying to figure this out, Jen. I'm just stuck. She put her arm around me. She kissed me on the cheek. She said, don't worry, Al, you always do. And I never forget that, right? It's just this conviction, like you'll figure it out, relax, don't beat yourself up. And that helps. And I think everybody should have that in their life because without that, life's too hard, right? Because, I'm not perfect in my relationship, nor is she, but I'm telling you what, it's very nice to have somebody to cry on the days that you get kicked the shit out of.
Yeah, I think that's beautiful and it's amazing. And you and mom, and I want to note this because you didn't really go into detail about this. As a daughter, I have such an incredible example of what love is and what marriage looks like and what marriage should be from my parents. And the crazy thing is, they had me in college And the statistics around, I mean, people just having a child as young as you guys did in the situation you guys were in and staying together. I'm 27 and you guys, what, this is your 27th in August anniversary. So it's a great example. It's a testament to your whole journey too. So yeah,
Hey,
people
if
didn't
people
know
if
that and I wanted to add that in there.
I think so. If again, I like facts, right? So this is all documented, right? Because we actually had Elex because we were poor kids in college and had no money. We actually had Elex on the state program of Georgia. So Medicaid, Medicare, food stamps, the WIC actually, and so state funded Lamaze. But so you could go pull it up in the state of Georgia that Alexandria Simon was born down there, and they gave us a 1% chance, 1% chance that we would get off the program. So we're 1%ers, just so you know. You could read the literature. Like 1% of the people who get on that program who have the way we started this get off the program. So congratulations, Alex, you're a 1%er.
Whoop, whoop. I knew I was special.
Yeah, dog.
Oh, I love it. Okay, funny you say 1% because it leads us into our next question, okay? So, we talk about the Kaizen philosophy here a lot at Mental Mixology. We focus on taking control of your mental health 1% every day. What's a 1% people can work on to reach the peak of the industry they're working in or to chase the dream that they're going after?
That's a what they're specifically doing is a vague question, right? But the 1% is this. I think the overall concept of the 1% is control the controllables, right? It's 1%. It doesn't seem like a giant change. It does help, right? But you could control 1%. It's not like, hey, we're gonna do a 50% change. Like, how are we gonna do that? Right? It's like 1% every day. Like I could control that. Like 1% is, hey, I'm going to work out an extra 10 more minutes today. I'm going to start that today. So by the summertime, I'll get into the shape that I want to by adding 10 more minutes into my workout routine, right? That's a 1% change, right? Or, I'm going to start doing this or what you get where I'm going. I couldn't get specific because it was too vague for me, but it's really it's a gradual thing of trying to make yourself better. Look, just told you it took me 10 years from going 238 to 170, right? That's a 1% every day kind of mentality,
Yep,
right?
without a
You know,
doubt.
the other the other thing too is like I try to teach people this too in this whole world. Like let's just use dieting, right? Okay? People are always stuck on this like dieting thing, right? And like, oh, I did so good for 2 weeks and then last night I ate a piece of chocolate cake and now I'm off my diet. I'm like, "Why?
Yeah,
Why? You messed up one time, get back on it." Like we all fail. Like what I people do that all the
exactly.
time. They want to use like New Year's resolutions. Like why do New Year's resolutions always fail by the first week in February? Because you broke it once? Come on now. You
Yeah.
didn't really mean it in the first place. You're not
Mhm.
really getting the 1% change, right? Because if you believed it, you would have done it all year long, right? To really change yourself, right? And that's it's like Bible study every morning. That was a 1% change for me. I decided I was going to commit to the Lord 1%, not 1%, but
Yeah.
right? 1% change.
Mhm.
Right? Or every morning. It's just you just add these things in, you gradually just get better and better and better and better and better. And people just don't recognize that. And it's 1%. I totally agree with that.
Yeah. And like you said, it's just a little thing. You're not gonna go work out for an hour every day, 5 days a week for the next 3 months. You're gonna start doing that by, like you said, let's do 10 minutes and see if we can build off that.
Yes.
And I do want to hit on this is my last question for you, but your faith is the foundation of everything you do. Throughout this journey, I mean, as a kid, teen, young adult, have you, because sometimes it's hard to trust in the Lord, to put all of your trust in Him because we want to have control over everything going on, even though we don't. Did it take you time to trust in the Lord and His plan for you, or was it something that always came easy?
Theology is a big undertaking. I'm a big history guy. Theology is a big part of history. And so that's a loaded question for me.
Yeah.
I'm baptized Lebanese Maronite Christian, technically, but I grew up Roman Catholic. And not to disparage anybody or anything, because I really believe in the Lord. Through him, all things are possible. But the Roman Catholic Church and I don't necessarily see eye to eye on all things. And so I've really educated myself to figure out what are the things about the Holy Roman Church that I don't identify with, and they really have nothing to do with the Lord. And once I figured that out, I could come back to the Lord in the way I wanted to. I could define religion my way and how I believe He's talking to me, right? And I probably didn't get there till, I don't know, I was 30, maybe mid 30s to get back to, because I'm a kid, right? I mean, it's hard to comprehend all this stuff of like, you know, the, I don't wanna disparage. I loved my growing up, but they beat these concepts into your head that really why do you think we have Protestants? Why do you think we have Baptists and all this? 'Cause they all broke off from the Roman Church because they didn't believe in all these things, right? And so, I understand that now. I understand how we got I don't believe in what all they say either, right? Like, the good thing about you could interpret it any way you want, right? And so, do you feel like did I feel like he was walking with me every day? I don't know if I did. I do now because I could comprehend it, and maybe when I look back, right? If you accept him, he will accept you. That's the problem. Like, so if you don't bring him into your life, he's not going to walk with you. And people are like, why have you forsaken me? Because you never were there. It's not just a take relationship, it's a two-way street, right? And it's not about me, it's about him, right? And once you comprehend that, it becomes a big part of who you are, and the journey becomes easier because bad things still happen. Bad luck still happens to me, right? It's not like he's giving me this shield of protection that's but what he's giving you are these tools to build yourself, right? All these, people get to this point of like, I teach people this. Is it a problem or an opportunity? If you look at it as a problem, you're never going to move ahead. You're never going to take any value out of it. You're never going to see what the Lord's giving you. I take it as an opportunity, right? And I take it and I dissect it and I get to see how I'm going to figure this out. Who's going to figure it out? And once you change that perspective, then you really comprehend, right? And then you understand what the Lord's doing through you, for you, right? To the other people you're supposed to be touching and uplifting. And so, yeah, you just got to open your eyes more, right? I mean, you just got to see it, understand it. For me too, I think, I don't want to get over theology. I think everybody should start reading the Old Testament and then the New Testament. Everybody likes to quote the New Testament. And I understand why, right? Because we're all Christians. But to understand what the New Testament means, you got to read the Old Testament to comprehend why, right? That's where this is why Christ came, is because you have to understand the Old Testament. And I think knowledge is power. I want people to educate themselves, right, on what it means. And so I will say this, just a little plug, but I'm not the world's perfect person, and sometimes the names in the Bible are really hard. So I went audiobook my second time, and audiobook is much more helpful in getting the names and all that comprehension, because that was the hardest part, was all the names and comprehending the words that you don't know, because they have little cliff notes that says this is what this is, right? And so very helpful.
Yeah, and he means by that too, I can't remember what book in the Bible it starts, but there is a book, maybe books, I haven't read the whole Bible yet, that is literally just reading off names of, like, the family tree and lineage, and it
Yeah,
is so hard to like,
it's Chronicles, like
pronounce the name
Chronicles.
or read it.
Yeah,
It's crazy. So that's why, yeah, I appreciate you saying that, because that's something I'm going to migrate to, because that's the thing. There are times or passages in the Bible that you're going to be like, "Ooh, yes, it draws you in very
yeah,
easily." And there are times where it's harder to understand. So you do have to figure
correct.
out what works for you to be able to truly listen and understand it all. Well, this basically wraps up the episode. I appreciate you for coming on today. I think your message, we're talking about men's mental health, but anybody can take so much away from your story, the tidbits of advice that you've given us. And as we wrap up, I do want to just throw this out there for the men. There are some mental health organizations that you guys can check out. These are going to be on the mental mixology resource page if you do want an easier way to get to them. They are also going to be linked into the bio and show notes of the episode. But if you check out Movember, it's like November, but change the N to an M. They have a lot of good resources for any men needing mental health guidance, support, tools can check out. And then there's also Heads Up Guys, no spaces, all together. So Movember, Heads Up Guys, but then per usual, there is the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline, and it is also a text line. So check out the Mental Mixology resource page or the show notes to get access to those. But be kind to yourselves, be kind to one another. And yeah, Al, thank you for today.
Thank you for having me. It was an honor.
Everybody, stay tuned for more episodes. We will be back soon.
Bye.